The emergency sirens wailed throughout Epsilon Station, their piercing sound echoing down every corridor and chamber. Red warning lights flashed in rhythm with the alarms, painting the metal walls with an eerie glow. The space station, once a proud symbol of cooperation between humans and the Virillian species, now trembled under attack from an unknown enemy force. Amy Nelson checked her combat suit one last time as she ran through the crowded hallway. Fellow soldiers and civilian workers pushed past her in panic, all heading toward the evacuation pods. The station AI repeated its warning in a calm, emotionless voice. Attention all personnel. Hostile forces have breached sectors 7 through 12. Station integrity compromised. Evacuation protocol now mandatory. Please proceed to nearest escape pods immediately. Amy had been stationed on Epsilon for only 3 months. As a specialist in the United Earth Defense Force, her job involved security operations and diplomatic protection. Now, as chaos erupted around her, she maintained the discipline her years of training had instilled. Move in orderly fashion, she shouted to the crowd, trying to prevent a stampede. The pods can accommodate everyone if we stay organized. Her squad commander, Lieutenant Diane West, appeared through the smoke, her face streaked with soot and determination. Nelson, we need to get to the command center. The rest of the squad is already heading to emergency pod bay 2. Amy nodded and fell in step beside her commander. They moved against the flow of evacuees, their boots clicking on the metal floor. The artificial gravity still functioned, but occasional tremors suggested it might not last much longer. What are we facing, Lieutenant? Amy asked as they turned down a less crowded corridor. They call themselves the Scourge, West replied grimly. Never encountered them before today. They appeared without warning at the edge of the system. 3 hours later, they launched an assault on the station. Their technology is unlike anything our sensors have seen. They reached the command center to find it nearly abandoned. Emergency terminals blinked with warning messages. Through the large viewport, Amy could see the battle raging outside. Strange ships with organic-looking hulls fired upon the station's defenses. Their movements seemed erratic yet purposeful, like predators toying with prey. Where is everyone? Amy asked, surveying the empty stations. Evacuated already as per protocol. West moved to the main console and began typing rapidly. I need to make sure the defense systems stay online long enough for all pods to launch safely. You should head to the evacuation point now, Nelson. Amy hesitated, her sense of duty conflicting with the order. I can help here, Lieutenant. West shook her head firmly. That's an order, Specialist. Get to pod bay 2 and make sure our squad makes it out. Reluctantly, Amy turned to leave, but stopped when a transmission crackled through the emergency channel. The voice speaking was distinctly non-human, with a musical quality despite the obvious distress. This is Queen Zara of the Virillian delegation. My guards have abandoned their posts. I am trapped in the diplomatic quarter, Section 4. Can anyone assist? Amy and West exchanged glances. The Virillian Queen had been the strongest advocate for the Human-Virillian alliance, overcoming centuries of her people's isolation to forge new bonds with Earth. Her presence on the station had been considered a great honor. I'll go, Amy said immediately. West looked torn. Nelson, the evacuation order. No one gets left behind, Amy said firmly. Especially not the Queen who risked everything to ally with us. After a moment, West nodded. Take emergency route B3, it should still be clear. I'll try to buy you some time before I evacuate. The station's main systems are failing, so you'll have maybe 20 minutes before catastrophic collapse. Amy checked her weapon, a standard pulse rifle, and secured her helmet. 20 minutes is all I need. She moved swiftly through the station, following the emergency route displayed on her helmet's heads-up display. The diplomatic quarter lay on the opposite side from the evacuation bays, and with many corridors blocked by debris or security lockdowns, the journey proved challenging. Twice she encountered small groups of panicked civilians and directed them toward safety. Once she glimpsed strange figures moving through smoke at an intersection, tall insectoid forms that moved with unsettling grace. She ducked into a maintenance shaft to avoid them, her heart pounding against her ribs. The diplomatic quarter showed signs of hasty abandonment. Personal items lay scattered across floors. Doors stood open to empty rooms, and occasionally small fires burned where electrical systems had overloaded. Amy followed the Virillian distress beacon to a large chamber, decorated with the flowing artistic patterns favored by the alien species. There she found Queen Zara, trapped beneath a fallen support beam. The Virillian ruler was an impressive sight even in distress. standing nearly 7 feet tall when upright. With iridescent blue-green scales and 4 graceful arms, the queen possessed an elegance that few humans could match. Her head bore an elaborate crest that now drooped slightly in pain or exhaustion. "Your Majesty," Amy called, rushing to her side. "I'm Specialist Amy Nelson, Earth Defense Force. I'm here to help." The queen's large golden eyes widened in surprise. "A human came," she said softly, her voice carrying that distinctive musical quality even through pain. When my own guards fled in fear, Amy assessed the situation quickly. The beam pinning the queen was too heavy to lift without mechanical assistance, and the queen's lower body showed signs of injury where it was trapped. "My exosuit has strength amplifiers," Amy explained, activating the system. Her combat suit hummed as servomotors engaged along her arms and legs. "When I lift, you'll need to pull yourself free immediately. Can you do that?" The queen nodded, her expression difficult to read with alien features. "I will try, human soldier." Amy positioned herself and gripped the beam. "On my count. 1, 2, 3. With the suit amplifying her strength, Amy lifted the massive beam several inches. The queen used her forearms to pull herself forward, wincing visibly but moving steadily until she was clear. Amy carefully lowered the beam and rushed to support the alien ruler. "Thank you," the queen said, leaning heavily against Amy. She was much taller than the human, but in her weakened state she hunched forward. "I fear my left walking limb is damaged. We need to move quickly, Your Majesty. The station is failing." As if to emphasize her point, a violent tremor shook the room, causing ceiling panels to crash down nearby. The station AI announced in its eerily calm voice, "Warning, critical systems failing. Estimated time to structural collapse, 15 minutes. Amy supported the queen as they moved toward the exit. Despite the alien size, the Virillians were surprisingly light-boned, making her easier to assist than Amy had expected. Still, their progress was painfully slow through the damaged corridors. "The Scourge," the queen said as they moved. "They are ancient enemies of my people. We believe them extinct for generations. Their return is most troubling. We can discuss ancient history once we're safely away from here," Amy replied, checking her helmet display for the fastest route to the remaining evacuation pods. Many paths showed as blocked or damaged. They encountered no other survivors as they made their way through the increasingly unstable station. Occasionally, distant sounds echoed through the corridors, strange chittering noises that made Amy's skin crawl. The queen tensed at these sounds, her scales rippling with what Amy guessed was fear. "They consume," the queen whispered. "Not just flesh, but knowledge, technology, culture. They are the end of civilization, the darkness between stars." "Not today, they're not," Amy said firmly. "Today, we're getting out of here." They reached a junction where 3 corridors met. Amy's display indicated the shortest route to Pod Bay 3, now their best hope for evacuation. As they turned the corner, they came face to face with one of the Scourge. The creature stood nearly 8 feet tall, its body covered in chitinous plates that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Multiple limbs extended from its torso, some ending in claws, others in strange appendages that might have been weapons or tools. Its head featured no recognizable eyes, but sensory organs pulsed along what might have been its neck. For a moment, all 3 figures remained frozen in surprise. Then the creature emitted a high-pitched sound that hurt Amy's ears even through her helmet. It raised a limb that began to glow with energy. Amy reacted instinctively, pushing the queen behind her and raising her pulse rifle. She fired 3 rapid bursts, the blue energy bolts striking the creature's chest. It staggered back but didn't fall. "Run!" she shouted to the queen, continuing to fire as they retreated down a side corridor. The creature pursued, moving with unnatural speed despite its awkward appearance. Amy's rifle fire slowed it, but didn't stop it. They reached a security door and Amy quickly punched in an emergency override code. The door slid open just enough for them to squeeze through before slamming shut behind them. "That will not hold it for long," the queen said. Her breathing labored. "They can manipulate technology." "Then we keep moving," Amy replied, helping the queen forward. "Pod Bay 3 is 2 levels up." They reached an emergency ladder and Amy faced a new challenge. The queen's forearms gave her an advantage for climbing, but her injured leg made the ascent difficult. With careful coordination and Amy's support from below, they managed to... Amy pulled the queen into a narrow service corridor as the Scourge creatures advanced. The passage was barely wide enough for the Virillians' broader shoulders, but desperation made the impossible possible. Amy sealed the access panel behind them, knowing it would only buy them seconds at most. "This way," she whispered, guiding the injured queen through the dimly lit maintenance tunnel. The emergency lighting cast strange shadows along the walls, creating illusions of movement that kept Amy constantly on edge. Queen Zara moved as quickly as her injured leg allowed, her breathing becoming more labored with each passing minute. The normally vibrant blue scales covering her body had dulled to an ashen gray, particularly around the wound on her lower limb. "The maintenance bay should have at least one functional shuttle," Amy explained as they crawled through the narrow space. "Station protocol requires it for emergency repairs." The Queen nodded silently, conserving her strength. After several tense minutes of navigating the cramped tunnels, they reached a small access hatch. Amy's helmet display showed they had arrived at their destination. "We're here," she said, working to unlock the hatch. "The maintenance bay should be just beyond this point." The hatch opened with a metallic groan, revealing a large chamber filled with equipment, spare parts, and to Amy's immense relief, a small service shuttle. The craft wasn't designed for long-distance travel or comfort, but it had life support and thrusters. Right now, that was all they needed. As they emerged from the tunnel, the station shuddered violently, throwing them both against a storage container. Warning lights flashed more urgently throughout the bay. "Warning. Station structural integrity at 12%. Complete failure imminent. All personnel must evacuate immediately." Amy helped the Queen toward the shuttle, noticing how the alien ruler's steps had become increasingly unsteady. When they reached the craft, Amy quickly ran through the activation sequence, bringing systems online as efficiently as her training allowed. "Your Majesty, can you get inside while I finish the launch preparations?" The Queen attempted to climb into the small craft but stumbled, her injured leg finally giving out. Amy caught her before she could fall, the exosuit's strength amplifiers making it possible to support the much larger alien. "I apologize," the Queen said, her musical voice now barely above a whisper. "My species is not known for its physical resilience." "No need for apologies," Amy replied, helping her into the passenger seat. The shuttle had been designed for human proportions, forcing the tall Virillian to fold her forearms close to her body and duck her crested head. "We're getting out of here together." Amy strapped the Queen in securely before taking the pilot's seat. As she initiated the launch sequence, an alarm blared from the bay doors. "Proximity alert. Unknown biological signatures detected." Through the shuttle's forward viewport, Amy saw 3 scourge creatures enter the maintenance bay. They moved with predatory purpose, their sensing organs pulsing as they detected the shuttle and its occupants. "Hold on tight," Amy warned, overriding the normal launch protocols. The shuttle's engines whined in protest as she forced them to ignite before full warm-up. The craft lurched forward just as one of the creatures leaped toward them, its claws scraping against the hull with a sound that set Amy's teeth on edge. The bay doors began to open automatically in response to the launch sequence, revealing the star-filled void beyond. As they cleared the station, Amy got her first full view of the battle raging around Epsilon. The Scourge vessels, organic-looking ships that resembled massive insects, outnumbered the human and Virillian defenders. Several station sections had already been torn open to space, their contents spilling out in silent, frozen plumes. "We need to reach the fleet rendezvous coordinates," Amy said, checking the shuttle's navigation system. "The Allied ships should be gathering at the jump point near the system's edge." Queen Zara stirred in her seat, her golden eyes fixed on the destruction behind them. "My people have a saying," she said softly. "When darkness rises, look not to the strongest warrior, but to the one who remains when others flee." Amy felt the Queen's gaze turn toward her. "You remained, human soldier. When my own guards abandoned their sworn duty, when your fellow humans followed evacuation protocols, you came for me." "It was the right thing to do," Amy replied simply, focusing on piloting the small craft through the debris field that had once been parts of the station. The Queen's upper right hand moved to rest lightly on Amy's armored shoulder. The touch startled her. Virillians were known to be reserved with physical contact, especially with other species. "My people have misunderstood yours," the Queen continued. "We saw your short lives and passionate natures as signs of primitive development. We were wrong. There is wisdom in your impulsiveness, strength in your emotional connections." Before Amy could respond, the shuttle's warning system activated. Two Scourge vessels had broken away from the main battle and were now pursuing them. The small maintenance craft had minimal shielding and no weapons. It stood no chance against dedicated war vessels. We need to lose them in the debris field, Amy decided, steering the shuttle toward the expanding cloud of station fragments. The maneuver was risky. Collision with even a small piece of debris could be fatal, but it offered their only chance of escape. The shuttle darted between floating panels and structural beams, its engines straining as Amy pushed them beyond their intended capacity. The Scourge ships followed, their organic hulls seeming to flex and adjust to the chase, allowing them to navigate the obstacles with disturbing ease. "They are hunters," Queen Zara observed, her voice gaining strength despite her injuries. "This pursuit pattern is not random. They are hurting us." Amy realized the Queen was right. The Scourge vessels weren't simply chasing them. They were systematically cutting off escape routes, driving them toward a specific area of space. "I need to break their pattern," Amy said, her mind racing through possible tactics. "Your Majesty, do your people know any weaknesses of these creatures? Anything that might help us?" The Queen's crest rippled in what Amy had learned was a thoughtful expression. "They navigate primarily through quantum signatures. Each Scourge can sense the unique energy pattern of technology and life forms." "Quantum signatures," Amy repeated, an idea forming. "The station's reactor core was overloading when we left. If it detonates, the quantum disturbance might blind them temporarily. A dangerous gamble," the Queen noted, "but perhaps our only option." Amy adjusted their course, heading back toward the failing station rather than away from it. The Scourge ships followed, perhaps interpreting the move as an attempt to reach other escape vessels. As they approached Epsilon Station, Amy could see the central section pulsing with unstable energy. The reactor containment was clearly failing, creating visible distortions in the space around it. "Warning: extreme energy fluctuations detected ahead. Recommend immediate course correction." Amy ignored the shuttle's automated warning, instead calculating the optimal moment to change direction. They needed to be close enough to use the explosion as cover, but not so close that they would be destroyed by it. "Brace yourself, Your Majesty. This will be rough." The Queen's forehands gripped the safety harness, her body tensing in preparation. Amy counted down the seconds, watching the energy readings climb toward critical levels. When the moment came, she yanked the controls hard, sending the shuttle into a steep dive away from the station. Almost simultaneously, Epsilon's reactor core breached. The explosion sent a blinding flash of energy in all directions, followed by a powerful shockwave. The shuttle tumbled end over end, its systems overwhelmed by the blast. Amy fought to regain control as warnings blared from every console. Through the viewport, she glimpsed the Scourge ships spinning wildly, their coordinated movements disrupted by the quantum disturbance. "Main power at 30%, Amy reported, her voice tight with concentration. "Life support stable, engines responding but barely." The Queen leaned forward, her golden eyes fixed on the sensor display. "The Scourge vessels are disoriented, but they will recover soon. We must use this opportunity." Amy nodded, directing their damaged craft toward the jump point. The shuttle limped forward, its engines sputtering and straining. Behind them, the Scourge ships began to stabilize, their movements becoming purposeful once again. "They're regaining control faster than I hoped," Amy said grimly. "We're still too far from the rendezvous point." Queen Zara studied the star chart displayed on the navigation console. "There is a dense asteroid field in this region," she pointed with one of her lower hands. "The fragments contain high concentrations of magnetically active minerals, which would interfere with quantum sensing," Amy finished, immediately understanding the Queen's suggestion. New course plotted. The shuttle changed direction, heading for the asteroid field. They reached the outer edge just as the Scourge vessels resumed their pursuit. Amy guided their craft between the slowly tumbling rocks, using the natural obstacles as shields against their hunters. The Queen watched the human pilot with growing admiration. Despite the chaos and danger, the young soldier maintained focus, her movements precise and decisive. It reminded Zara of why she had advocated so strongly for the alliance with humans in the first place. What they lacked in lifespan and technological advancement. Amy woke to the steady beep of medical equipment and the distinct antiseptic smell of a ship's medical bay. Her body felt heavy and sore, but the bone-deep cold that had gripped her in the shuttle was gone. She blinked several times, allowing her eyes to adjust to the light. "The human awakens," came a familiar musical voice from nearby. Amy turned her head to see Queen Zara sitting beside her bed. The Virillian ruler looked much improved since their escape. Her scales had regained their vibrant blue sheen, and her crest stood tall and elegant once more. Her injured leg was encased in some kind of translucent medical device that pulsed with soft light. "Your Majesty?" Amy tried to sit up but found herself too weak. "You're all right." The Queen gently placed one of her 4 hands on Amy's shoulder. "Please rest. You suffered severe hypothermia and oxygen deprivation. The ship's medical officer says you require at least another day of recovery." Amy relaxed back against the pillow, taking stock of her surroundings. They were definitely on a human vessel. The design and equipment were standard Earth Defense Force issue. "We made it to the Valiant?" "Indeed. Captain Brooks has been most accommodating. She insisted I receive the same level of medical care as you, despite my assurances that my injuries were minor compared to your condition." Amy smiled weakly. Laura Brooks has always been known for her diplomatic skills. Having the Virillian Queen recover on her ship probably doesn't hurt her career prospects either. The Queen's head tilted slightly, and what Amy had learned was the Virillian equivalent of a smile. "Perhaps, though I suspect her concern was genuine, much like your decision to rescue me." Before Amy could respond, the medical bay doors slid open to admit a tall, stern-looking woman in a captain's uniform. Laura Brooks had a reputation throughout the fleet as a brilliant tactician and demanding commander. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, emphasizing her sharp features and penetrating gaze. "Specialist Nelson," the captain greeted her. "Good to see you conscious. Your actions have caused quite a stir among both our fleets." Amy swallowed nervously. "Captain, I know I disobeyed the evacuation order, but—" Brooks raised a hand, cutting off her explanation. "Save it, Nelson. Under normal circumstances, such a breach of protocol would result in serious disciplinary action." Her expression softened slightly. "However, these circumstances are far from normal." The captain turned to acknowledge the Queen with a respectful nod before continuing. "Queen Zara has given us a full account of your actions on Epsilon Station. Your decision to prioritize her safety might have violated our standard procedures, but it may also have saved the Alliance itself." Amy glanced at the Queen, who inclined her crested head slightly. "The human showed remarkable courage and loyalty," Zara confirmed. "Qualities my people have sometimes questioned in your species. I will ensure the High Council hears of this when we reach Virillian space." Captain Brooks nodded. "That brings me to our current situation. The Scourge attack has forced us to accelerate the fleet's rendezvous. All surviving ships are gathering at coordinates just outside the Helios boundary. From there, we'll make the jump to Virillia Prime." Amy's eyebrows rose in surprise. Earth Defense Force vessels rarely entered Virillian territory. Despite the alliance, certain cultural barriers had remained firmly in place. Noticing her reaction, the captain explained, "The Scourge targeted Epsilon Station specifically because of its importance to our alliance. Intelligence suggests they may be planning similar attacks on other outposts. The Joint Command has decided our fleets will operate as a unified force until this threat is contained." "This is unprecedented," the Queen added. "No outside species has been welcome to Virillia Prime in over 3 centuries. But these are unprecedented times." Amy absorbed this information, suddenly feeling the weight of larger events settling on her shoulders. What had begun as a simple rescue had somehow placed her at the center of a pivotal moment in human-Virillian relations. "Rest now," Captain Brooks instructed. "Once you've recovered, I'll need a full debriefing on your encounter with the Scourge. Every detail could be valuable." After the captain departed, Amy turned to Queen Zara with a questioning look. "Your Majesty, you mentioned the Scourge were ancient enemies of your people. What exactly are they? Where did they come from?" The Queen's golden eyes seemed to look beyond the medical bay walls into distant memory. "They are older than recorded history, perhaps older than civilization itself. The earliest Virillian texts speak of them as the devouring darkness or the void that hungers." She paused, her crest rippling with emotion. "For thousands of years they were considered merely legends, stories to frighten children. Then, Approximately 800 of your Earth years ago, they emerged from the unexplored regions beyond the Crimson Nebula. They destroyed 3 Virillian colony worlds before our ancestors managed to drive them back. And now they've returned, Amy said quietly. Yes, though how or why remains unclear. My scientists theorize they may have been dormant, perhaps in some form of collective hibernation. The expansion of our territories, both Virillian and human, into new regions of space might have disturbed them. The Queen's upper hands made a complex gesture that Amy couldn't interpret. What troubles me most is their apparent evolution. The historical records describe them as savage but primitive. The scourge we faced at Epsilon displayed advanced technology and tactics. Amy considered this information, her military training automatically analyzing the strategic implications. They targeted a joint human Virillian installation first. That suggests they recognize the alliance as a threat. A perceptive observation, the Queen acknowledged, which raises an unsettling question. How long have they been watching us? Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of the ship's medical officer, who insisted that Amy needed more rest. The Queen gracefully excused herself, promising to continue their discussion once Amy had fully recovered. Over the next 2 days, Amy's strength gradually returned. The medical treatments accelerated her recovery, repairing the damage caused by extreme cold and oxygen deprivation. By the time she was cleared for light duty, the fleet had already reached the rendezvous coordinates. Amy made her way to the observation deck, eager to see the gathered ships. The sight that greeted her took her breath away. Dozens of vessels filled the viewport, sleek Virillian cruisers with their distinctive curved hulls alongside the more angular human battleships and carriers. It was the largest combined fleet since the alliance began. Impressive, isn't it? Amy turned to find Queen Zara standing nearby, her tall form easily recognizable even among the crowd of officers and crew members who had gathered to witness the historic assembly. I've never seen anything like it, Amy admitted. It's one thing to read about the alliance in training manuals, another to see it like this. The Queen moved closer, her golden eyes reflecting the stars outside. Before today, many of my people would have said such cooperation was impossible. The differences between our species seemed too great to overcome. And now they speak of the human soldier who risked everything to save their queen. Your actions have become something of a symbol, Specialist Nelson. Amy felt her cheeks warm with embarrassment. I was just doing my duty, Your Majesty. Perhaps, but in doing so you have reminded both our peoples of why this alliance matters. The Queen's voice took on a formal quality. Which is why I wish to make you an offer. Before she could elaborate, the ship's communication system activated. Attention all personnel. Prepare for transit to Virillian space, jump sequence initiating in 30 minutes. Officers began directing crew members to their stations. Queen Zara gestured toward the exit. We must continue this conversation later. The Joint Command has called an emergency council and I must attend. Amy nodded, watching as the Queen departed with her Virillian guards. She couldn't help wondering what offer the Queen had intended to make. Whatever it was, it would have to wait until after they reached Virilia Prime. The jump to Virillian space occurred without incident. Amy, having been temporarily assigned to Captain Brooks's command staff due to her first-hand experience with the Scourge, watched from the bridge as the fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel. Virilia Prime appeared on the main viewport, a breathtaking world of swirling turquoise oceans and emerald landmasses, partially shrouded in pearlescent clouds. 3 moons of varying sizes orbited the planet, their surfaces gleaming with what appeared to be artificial structures. Beautiful, Amy whispered, momentarily forgetting the professional demeanor expected on the bridge. Captain Brooks nodded in agreement. Few humans have seen it with their own eyes. Consider yourself privileged, Nelson. The fleet established orbit around the planet's largest moon, which served as the primary Virillian military installation. Shuttlecraft began moving between the ships as commanders and diplomatic representatives gathered for the emergency council. To Amy's surprise, she received a summons to join Captain Brooks at the council. When she questioned the order, Brooks explained, Queen Zara specifically requested your presence. Apparently, your perspective on the Scourge is considered valuable. The first weeks of the Unified Response Force were challenging beyond anything Amy had anticipated. Cultural differences that seemed minor in diplomatic settings became significant obstacles in military operations. Virillians approached combat with methodical precision, developing elaborate plans for every contingency. Humans tended to value flexibility and improvisation, often modifying strategies on the fly. These contrasting approaches led to frequent misunderstandings and occasional heated arguments. As liaison between the two contingents, Amy found herself constantly mediating disputes while simultaneously trying to develop new combat doctrines that incorporated the strengths of both species. The pressure was immense, made worse by the knowledge that the Scourge continued to advance through the outer systems. 3 weeks after the formation of the URF,
Amy sat alone in her quarters aboard the Virillian command vessel Eternal Vigilance.
Reviewing combat simulation results on her datapad, the numbers were discouraging. Despite individual excellence, the combined teams consistently underperformed compared to homogeneous units. A soft chime announced a visitor at her door. "Enter," she called, expecting Commander Talara with more performance reports. Instead, Queen Zara herself stepped into the small room. Amy immediately rose to her feet, surprised by the unexpected visit. "Your Majesty, I didn't know you were aboard." "I arrived an hour ago," the Queen explained. "The High Council requested my presence for the strategic review tomorrow. But I wish to speak with you privately first." Amy gestured to the room's single chair, the only furniture sized for Virillian proportions. "Please sit. Can I offer you anything?" The Queen settled gracefully into the chair, her 4 hands folded in her lap. "No, thank you. I have reviewed the progress reports from Commander Talara. The integration is not proceeding as smoothly as we hoped." Amy sighed, running a hand through her short brown hair. "That's an understatement, Your Majesty. We're having trouble establishing basic coordination protocols, let alone advanced combat tactics." "I'm not surprised," the Queen said, her tone thoughtful rather than disappointed. "Our species have evolved under very different conditions. Virillians develop slowly, live long lives, and value careful consideration before action. Humans mature quickly, burn brightly but briefly, and excel at rapid adaptation." She fixed Amy with her golden gaze. "These differences are not weaknesses to be overcome, but strengths to be harmonized." Amy considered this perspective. "The problem is finding that harmony under combat conditions. In our simulations, the Virillian troops wait for complete information before committing, while the humans rush ahead based on partial data. Neither approach works well against the Scourge. Perhaps you are approaching the problem from the wrong angle," the Queen suggested. "Instead of trying to make Virillians think like humans or humans think like Virillians, consider how each might complement the other." The Queen rose and moved to the viewport, looking out at the stars. "When you rescued me from Epsilon Station, you did not try to make me move as quickly as a human would. Instead, you adapted your pace to accommodate my injury, while using your human strength to support me. Together, we achieved what neither could have alone." Amy joined her at the viewport, suddenly seeing their current challenge in a new light. "We've been trying to create unified protocols, but maybe we should be developing paired ones instead. Specialized roles that work in tandem." "Precisely," the Queen agreed. "The Scourge adapt quickly to predictable patterns. A dual approach might confuse them, making their responses less effective." Energized by this new concept, Amy spent the rest of the evening developing what she called complementary pair tactics. Instead of having mixed teams follow identical procedures, she created specialized roles that matched each species' natural strengths. Virillian personnel would handle strategic assessment and complex system operations, while humans would manage rapid response and adaptive maneuvers. The next morning, she presented her ideas to Commander Talara before the strategic review. The Virillian officer studied the proposal with characteristic thoroughness, her crest rippling with interest. "This approach has merit," Talara concluded. "It acknowledges our differences rather than attempting to erase them. I will support its implementation in our next training cycle." The strategic review itself provided sobering news. The Scourge had established footholds in 7 star systems, using captured facilities to launch further incursions. Their pattern of expansion suggested they were working towards something specific, though their ultimate objective remained unclear. "We believe they may be searching for something," reported Admiral Karen Wright, the highest-ranking human officer present. Their attacks appear systematic rather than random, following a pattern that suggests exploration rather than simple conquest. The ancient texts speak of the scourge seeking the wellspring of consciousness, added Elder Vereen, a Virillian historian. Of course, such references were long considered metaphorical rather than literal. Queen Zara's crest stiffened with sudden concern. The Nexus. They could be seeking the Nexus. The Virillian officials exchanged alarmed glances while the humans looked confused. Admiral Wright voiced the question on all human minds. What exactly is the Nexus, Your Majesty? The Queen hesitated before responding. It is difficult to explain in terms your species would understand. The closest approximation would be a naturally occurring quantum computer, formed in the heart of a specific type of neutron star. Our ancestors discovered it millennia ago and built our earliest faster-than-light communication systems around its principles. And this nexus is valuable to the Scourge? Amy asked. Potentially catastrophic, Elder Vereen corrected. The nexus does not merely process information. It exists simultaneously in multiple dimensional states. In the wrong hands, it could be weaponized to devastating effect. Admiral Wright frowned. If this nexus is so dangerous, why wasn't the Alliance informed of its existence? An uncomfortable silence fell over the Virillian contingent. Finally, Queen Zara answered, because its location has been one of our most closely guarded secrets. Only the High Council and the royal lineage possess that knowledge, and now the Scourge are hunting for it, Amy concluded. Which means they somehow learned of its existence, if not its exact location. The implications hung heavily in the council chamber. If the Scourge obtained control of the Nexus, both human and Virillian civilizations could face extinction. Yet the revelation of this secret Virillian asset had created a new tension in the Alliance, a reminder of how much remained unknown between the species, despite years of diplomatic relations. After the review concluded, Amy found herself summoned to a private meeting with Queen Zara and Admiral Wright. The Queen's expression was solemn as they gathered in a secure conference room. The situation has become more complicated than I anticipated, Zara began. The High Council is divided on how to proceed. Some believe we should withdraw all forces to defend the Nexus directly. Others argue that would only confirm its location to the Scourge. Admiral Wright's expression remained neutral, but her tone carried a hint of reproach. With respect, Your Majesty, the Alliance cannot function effectively with such significant secrets between us. I agree, the Queen said, surprising both humans, which is why I have made a decision that may prove controversial among my people. The Unified Response Force must be entrusted with the defense of the Nexus. Amy stared in shock. Your Majesty, we're still in the early stages of development. The URF hasn't even completed its first real combat operation. Necessity accelerates readiness, the Queen replied firmly. More importantly, the URF represents what the Scourge fear most, our species working in true cooperation. If they seek the Nexus to destroy our Alliance, then the Alliance itself must be our strongest defense. Admiral Wright considered this reasoning. The Joint Command would need to approve such a mission, and we would require full disclosure about the Nexus, its capabilities, defenses, and strategic significance. You will have it, Queen Zara promised. But the operation must remain absolutely confidential. If knowledge of the Nexus spreads too widely, we risk infiltration by Scourge agents. The Admiral nodded her agreement. Specialist Nelson's new tactical approach could be particularly effective for this mission. The complementary pairing system might give us an edge against an enemy that has so far anticipated our standard protocols. The Queen turned to Amy. You would be taking on an enormous responsibility. Are you prepared for this? Amy felt the weight of both their expectations pressing down on her. She was a mid-level specialist who had been thrust into a pivotal role through circumstance rather than design. Part of her wanted to step back, to suggest someone with more experience and rank should lead such a crucial mission. But then she remembered those moments in the maintenance shuttle, when she and Queen Zara had worked together to escape the Scourge, different in nearly every way, yet stronger together than apart. Perhaps that experience had prepared her for exactly this challenge. I'll need to accelerate the training program, she said, making her decision, and we'll need to select personnel very carefully, individuals from both species who can adapt quickly to the paired tactical system. You'll have whatever resources you require. Admiral Wright assured her. The Unified Response Force departed Virillian space aboard 3 vessels: the human destroyer Valiant, the Virillian cruiser Eternal Vigilance, and a specialized transport ship carrying their ground combat teams. Their mission parameters remained classified to all but the command staff, with the rest of the personnel knowing only that they were undertaking a critical defensive operation. Amy stood on the bridge of the Eternal Vigilance, watching as the swirling energies of hyperspace enveloped the view screen. Captain Brooks occupied the human command station to her right, while Commander Talara managed the Virillian systems on her left. Their complementary command structure mirrored the paired tactical approach they had developed for the entire force. "Transition to normal space in 5 minutes," announced the Virillian navigation officer. "All systems operating at optimal efficiency." Captain Brooks reviewed the sensor data on her console. "Telemetry from our advanced scouts shows no Scourge activity in the immediate target area. Either they haven't found the Nexus yet or they're being unusually subtle. The Scourge are many things, but subtle is not one of them," Commander Talara observed. "Their absence is concerning." Amy agreed with the Virillian commander's assessment. Throughout their preparation, they had studied every available record of Scourge tactics. The species operated with overwhelming force once they identified a target, rarely employing stealth or deception. "We should proceed with maximum caution," Amy suggested. "Full passive sensor sweeps once we emerge from hyperspace, and no active scans until we're certain the area is secure." Both senior officers nodded their agreement. As they neared the transition point, Amy felt the familiar tension building in her stomach, the soldier's instinct that warned of danger ahead. She had learned to trust that feeling over her years of service. The ships emerged from hyperspace near a binary star system, a massive blue giant orbited by a neutron star. The neutron star itself appeared unremarkable to visual observation, surrounded by what looked like a standard research installation. But according to the Virillian records, that ordinary-seeming stellar remnant contained the Nexus, a quantum phenomenon that existed partially beyond normal space-time. "Passive sensors show no vessels in the immediate vicinity," reported Lieutenant Martinez from the sensor station. "The research station appears intact and operating normally." "Open a secure channel to the station," Captain Brooks ordered. After several moments of silence, Martinez looked up with concern. "No response, Captain. Their communication systems appear to be active, but they're not acknowledging our hails." Commander Talara's crest stiffened with alarm. "The station should have a complement of 26 researchers and 12 security personnel. Standard protocols require immediate response to approaching vessels." "Something's wrong," Amy said, voicing what they were all thinking. "The Scourge might already be here." Captain Brooks made a quick decision. "Launch reconnaissance drones. Keep our ships at maximum safe distance until we know what we're dealing with." Small unmanned probes deployed from both the Valiant and the Eternal Vigilance, streaking toward the silent research station. Their sensor feeds appeared on the bridge monitors, showing exterior views of the facility as they approached. "No signs of structural damage," Commander Talara observed. "Power signatures appear normal." "Wait," Amy said, pointing to one of the feeds. "Look at the main docking bay." The drone's camera zoomed in on the indicated area, revealing subtle but disturbing details. The airlock doors showed microscopic perforations along their seams, tiny holes that formed an organic-looking pattern. "That's consistent with Scourge infiltration technology," Captain Brooks confirmed grimly. "They can deploy microorganisms that eat through seals and barriers without triggering security systems. If they've breached the station, we must assume the personnel have been compromised," Commander Talara stated, her tone solemn. "The protection of the Nexus takes priority over rescue attempts." Amy understood the cold logic of the Virillian perspective, but her human instincts rebelled against abandoning potential survivors. "Some of the researchers might still be alive. We can't just write them off without confirmation." Captain Brooks considered both viewpoints before making her decision. "We'll deploy paired infiltration teams to assess the situation. Minimal personnel, maximum stealth. Their primary objective is intelligence gathering, not engagement or rescue." "I'll lead the human component," Amy volunteered immediately. Brooks gave her a measuring look. "You're our tactical coordinator, Nelson. Your place is here with the command staff." "With respect, Captain, I've had more direct experience with the Scourge than anyone else in the unit. And the paired teams are my design. I should be the one to test them under actual combat conditions." After a moment's consideration, Brooks nodded. Very well. Select 3 human operators to partner with Virillion counterparts. You'll insert via stealth shuttle and maintain constant communication. The next hour passed in focused preparation. Amy selected her team carefully. Lieutenant Martinez for her sensor expertise, Sergeant Diane Foster for combat experience, and Specialist Heather Cole for technical skills. Their Virillion partners were chosen by Commander Talara based on complementary abilities. As they prepared their equipment in the shuttle bay, Amy received an unexpected visitor. Queen Zara entered the preparation area, causing all personnel to snap to attention. Your Majesty, Amy greeted her with surprise. I wasn't aware you had joined the mission. I arrived via separate transport, the Queen explained. The High Council felt my presence might be necessary if direct interface with the Nexus becomes required. Her golden eyes surveyed the assembled team. You intend to enter the station personally? It wasn't a question, but Amy answered anyway. Yes, Your Majesty. We need accurate intelligence before committing our main force. The Queen's crest rippled with what Amy now recognized as concern. The Scourge remember you, Amy Nelson. Your encounter on Epsilon Station marked you in their collective awareness. Your presence may trigger a stronger response. Amy hadn't considered this possibility. How could they recognize me specifically? The Scourge share a distributed consciousness. Any individual's experiences become part of their collective memory. The Queen's 4 hands made a complex gesture. Be vigilant. They may perceive you as a particular threat because of our previous escape. With that unsettling warning, the Queen wished them success and departed. Amy mulled over the implications as they completed their preparations. If the Scourge did indeed remember her specifically, it could complicate their mission or possibly provide an unexpected advantage. The infiltration team boarded their stealth shuttle, a sleek craft with advanced cloaking technology that rendered it nearly invisible to conventional sensors. As they approached the research station, Amy briefed her team on their objectives. We maintain paired formation at all times, she emphasized. Virillions handle sensor operations and strategic assessment. Humans manage tactical movement and immediate threat response. We gather intelligence on the station's status and the Scourge presence without engaging unless absolutely necessary. The shuttle docked with a secondary maintenance airlock, bypassing the compromised main entry points. Using specialized equipment, they created a secure seal and entered the station without triggering any systems that might alert the Scourge to their presence. The interior of the research station was eerily quiet. Emergency lighting cast red shadows along the corridors, but otherwise the facility appeared undamaged. Amy led the first paired team, herself and a Virillion scientist named Naver, while the other pair secured their entry point and established a communication relay. Life sign readings are unusual, Naver reported quietly, studying his sensor device. I detect approximately 38 individuals within the station, but the signatures show anomalies. The normal complement is 38, Amy whispered back. That could mean they're all still alive. Or that the Scourge have maintained their biological functions while altering their consciousness, Naver countered. My people have historical records of such tactics. They moved deeper into the station, following the layout provided in their mission briefing. The research areas surrounding the Nexus access point were their primary objective. As they approached the central laboratory, Amy noticed subtle changes in their environment. The wall surfaces showed faint organic patterns, almost like veins or tendrils spreading along the metal. Scourge Biotech, Naver confirmed, scanning the structures. They are integrating with the station's systems. I estimate the process began approximately 72 hours ago. Amy touched her communication device. All teams be advised. Confirmed Scourge infiltration. Proceed with extreme caution. They reached a junction where the corridor split into 3 directions. According to their schematics, the center path led directly to the main laboratory. As they prepared to advance, a sound echoed from the right-hand corridor, footsteps moving with an uneven rhythm. Amy and Naver pressed against the wall, weapons ready. Around the corner came a Virillion researcher, moving with an awkward gait. At first glance, she appeared unharmed, but as she drew closer, Amy noticed disturbing details. Small tendril-like structures emerged from the researcher's neck and wrapped around her head crest. Her golden eyes had a clouded, unfocused quality.